My name is Meg Tuohey. Together we'll gather wisdom from a wide range of voices, thought leaders and seekers just like you. Through individual stories, we'll explore multiple categories of wisdom and uncover how the stripes of our experiences, both joyful and challenging and all that lies in between, intertwine to create a rich tapestry of life. So whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Welcome to the Wisdom Stripes podcast, where we explore the profound journeys of individuals who've emerged from life's challenges with hard-earned wisdom and resilience. I'm your host, Meg Tuohey, and I'm thrilled to share that this podcast is brought to you by the transformative program, The Wisdom Lab. If you're feeling stuck in painful patterns, desperately seeking a breakthrough, and yearning for the tools to shatter emotional barriers and reclaim your power, the Wisdom Lab is your answer. In just 4 hours, you'll discover how to tap into your inner wisdom, turn confusion into clarity, and unlock the profound personal growth you've been craving. No more band-aid solutions or surface-level advice. This is about deep, lasting transformation from the inside out. Ready to embark on this life-changing journey? Head to the show notes for an exclusive link to learn more. Let's unleash your wisdom together. Dan Fleyshman is the youngest ever founder of a publicly traded company. He started selling hoodies at age 17, which in turn transformed into a multi-million-dollar clothing brand. Dan is described as a serial entrepreneur. Having launched a beverage brand, a poker site, and founded a social media agency, Dan pours his energy into his social media advertising business, charities, and acting as an angel investor. Dan, welcome to Wisdom Stripes, where we are your fierce fairy godparents, turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. This is going to be fun.
I think so. Dan, we start every episode with the same question. The answer might morph as we move through and discuss, but if you could guess, what wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Be relentless. So whatever is going to happen, there's going to be good stuff, bad stuff, hard stuff. You're going to have to put out fires. You're going to have people attack you, sue you, cheat, leave. There's so many things that happen in business and life that if you can stay relentless and fight through it, you will ultimately beat everyone around you, because the rest of them, they're going to cry, they're going to go to the floor, they're going to focus on the past. If you're relentless and keep forward, you will ultimately win.
Can you tell us about your first experience as an entrepreneur selling hoodies at 17? Because it sounds like you've known this relentless thing for a long time, maybe since you were 17.
So that's, selling t-shirts in high school, selling them for $15 each, selling 100 of them. I was like, oh my God, I have $1,500. I'm a millionaire, right? Like, this is it. I got it. I got my career path for the next 80 years right here. And immediately from there, we went to a clothing convention called Magic in Las Vegas. We weren't even allowed to get a hotel room in Las Vegas. We weren't even 18, and we weren't definitely allowed to get a booth at the convention. But we got through all that, got a booth at the convention, ended up getting $1 million in orders at this convention with no way to manufacture it, no way to have the money to, you need $500K to produce 1 million of product. You need around 50% to produce it. We didn't know any of that stuff. And so the relentless part came. We went to downtown Los Angeles and literally were like knocking on doors and walking in buildings, walking into what's called the California Apparel Mart. And there's dozens of stores. We just walked in and started going floor to floor and asking who the heck could manufacture the $1 million in orders we got. And so we found someone, and we found another person, got referred, etc. And that's ultimately how the career started, was just grab the bull by the horns, and just go for it. When we first went to that convention, there was the FUBU had their humongous booth next to us, which cost $1 million, $2 million. My booth was $3,600 to put it in context. And on the other side was Sean John, was the launch of Puff Daddy's brand. That was their day one. This is back in 1999. And so in that moment where I've got my little 20-foot booth next to these $1 million booths, you had to be relentless. And so because of that, we stood out, we fought the good fight, There's a lot of bad stuff that happened along the way, which I'm sure we'll get into, but it all started in that moment of just like, you got to figure it out. If you don't come through on these orders and you don't ship to Nordstrom's or you don't ship to this chain store, the industry will know. And so we had to figure it out. We had to figure out the money part, the manufacturing part, the shipping part. We had to figure it out, and we had to figure it out fast.
So one of the things I understand about the humans is that there's always a thing underneath that's like a driver. If you look at your word of relentless and you look at your life so far, which is very interesting and prolifically business focused, what's the driver underneath? Where does the energy come from and why?
So the energy comes from the fact that if I don't work, I'm risking other people's financial situations and they're feeding their families. So meaning like, if I don't perform, if I don't create revenue, if I don't create sales, if I don't execute, if I don't raise capital, if I don't do all of the things, my employees and sales reps and manufacturers and vendors and clients and everyone between, they don't eat. And so it's on me to perform when I'm the one generating 1 million, 9.5 million, go public, 55,000 stores. Think about the amount of commerce that creates and how many people are making money from that. The truck drivers delivering the millions of cans, the distributors, the freaking post office that was shipping it, the manufacturers of the cans, the labeling, the chemists that made the drink. There's so many thousands of humans, or if not tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of humans involved in the commerce of Dan, with the little boy that had an idea. And so I had to be relentless. I had to put in the efforts, and it still drives me to this day. Now it's on a much bigger scale because now there's a bunch of different companies and tens of thousands of employees amongst these investments. Like, I have to move,
How do you feel about the weight of that? Because I can hear that you value that weight and you're respectful of that weight. What's it like to live with that weight?
It's a constant struggle of the fact that I constantly want to do more. And I know that I have a finite amount of time on Earth, right? I know I only have one day or 50, 60, 70 years, maybe with modern technology longer if I can have, bionic arms and bionic, limbs. But ultimately, I only have a finite amount of time. It's not like I have hundreds of years. And so because of that, I feel like I'm on a ticking time clock. I got to do this. I got to work. This week, I'm going to be in Denver, Miami, this city, Los Angeles, New York, bam, bam, bam. So I am in this relentless mode even to this day. And it's because the stakes are bigger, right? I now have so many more employees than I did as a high school kid, and then I did as my 20s, and then 30s, and now 40s. There's just so many people that depend on me. There's 200 animals in my ranch. If I don't work, they don't eat. And it sounds funny, but that's $140,000 a month to feed those animals. So if I decide, you know what, that's it. I'm going to go sleep in Hawaii and hang out and chill out in Cabo San Lucas. And what happens to the animals? What happens to my employees? What happens to my vendors and my clients and my lawyers and doctors and accountants and everyone that's waiting for me to pay them? And so the weight is there, but I picked up the weights. I'm the one that added the plates onto the dumbbell, right? Or to the bar.
So curious then, was that something that pre-17 you had an inkling of about yourself? Were you always a guy that liked the weight of responsibility, that had the dream of what might be possible, that had those shimmery kind of aspirations of a life that was going to be at this level? Did you always know?
So we didn't have, back in my days, there was no social media, right? There was no smartphones in 1999. I had a beeper. So I didn't even have the Zach Morris phone, the huge phone. That didn't even exist. So I only saw what I saw on television of Saved by the Bell and, those have Knight Rider, things like that. But they didn't have the amount of shows, movies, Netflix, social media. I didn't have that access to YouTube and everything that exists now. So what I thought was, back then there was one famous calendar or a poster that almost every young adult had. And it was a picture of all these cars in a garage. And it said the American Dream. And it was this, and it had a sunset behind it. And that was this thing of but I didn't want the cars. I wanted the function of the cars, meaning I wanted that action to happen. But even to this day, I don't have any fancy cars. I want to buy a car company, right? I want to invest in Tesla. Like I have a different look at the capital part of it, but I like the vision of that poster. And so 4 years old to 8 years old, I was buying and selling baseball cards. As soon as my parents got divorced, we moved to San Diego, I was selling candy out of my backpack. My mom would give me $13 at Costco. I'd flip it to $30, give her $13 back. Bada bing, bada boom. Like I was always hustling from 8 years old, 9 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old. I was always trying to do something. Working 3 jobs in high school at the same time. Like the action was always there my whole life because I wanted to produce capital. And it wasn't for me. It wasn't for Dan. I still to this day don't buy stuff. Inside of some sneakers I like. Outside of that, I don't buy stuff, you know? And so like the game has been instilled in me since the very beginning.
So it's like, and forgive me if I'm clunky with this, but the way that I'm reading this is it's like you like the right? Let me try that again. You like the systematization of capital and commerce and building machines, essentially. You love that. And then you like to refine them and refine them and refine them and then start another one and kind of roll with lots of machines. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yes, but I don't do any company or any investment or any event or any charity unless it has a CEO running it. And so you might see Dan's got acai bowl chain, sports car store chain, social media agency, a ranch, animals, live events business. That sounds like chaotic, right? Chaos. Every one, I can tell you about the CEO and why they're amazing. And so, and I wouldn't do it if they weren't there. Literally, I wouldn't do it. So I have controlled chaos because I have CEOs running each company.
So could we then could I guess that you've set your life up so that the things that you love the most are the things that you do every day? You love the leadership, you love the responsibility, you love the social media. Is it like that or different?
Yes. I don't do any businesses that I don't enjoy. Like I don't like the space. I don't deal with a lot of the detailed minutia of the paperwork that I like. Not that I'm against it, because I look at so much paperwork and I read so many contracts and accounting and taxes and financials. I was reading right before we got on this call, 32 pages of financials. Like, but I don't actually have to deal with it the way that accounting firm, lawyers, etc. have to. So I try to tie in. Well, if I like to do charity work and I like poker, I'll throw a charity poker tournament. If I like my charity that helps kids get toys, I'll throw the world's largest toy drive. If I like to do sports cards with Gary Vaynerchuk, I'll open sports card stores with Gary Vaynerchuk. So each step of the way, it's just someone is running that organization.
Do you feel like you've always understood your strengths and you've built a life around them?
So I finally fixed it. The things that I was neglecting or ego would say I could do it all in late 2018, 2019. I finally brought on the CEO, Joey Carson, whose 30 years of experience is going to eclipse mine. Like he's going to be better at running my business. And I had to get over the ego part of like, no, only I can run my business, right? And even at the event we were at, you remember me talking about this, like we all have this ego thing of, no, I have to run it. I have to be the one. And no one else can do what I do. In that moment of finally realizing like, well, I know my strengths is the people, the events, the networking, the speaking, going out there and being the butterfly, even though I'm an introvert, going out there and being the action maker will bring back clients. And I don't like, my weaknesses are, I don't want to deal with 80 pages of paperwork. I will if I have to, but it's not like I want to do that like other people actually want to go through and deal with the accounting and finance, etc. And so bringing on a CEO is that turning point for me of when I was like, okay, I'm finally going to unshackle myself from this office and from the things that I don't like and bring on someone that's got way more experience to manage this entire operation.
I love that about you. You're able to see your opportunities for growth and you're able to work from a logical standpoint in terms of working through to replace yourself so that you can have a different experience of life. I wonder, now that you're a parent, congratulations. It's pretty amazing. I wonder with Ariana around, does your work change because of your family? Do they become more integrated? How does that work in your life?
Yeah. So when Erica, Ariana's mom, moved in, that also came with her mom, her sister, and their 2 daughters. So all of a sudden I have 6 women in my house, right? And so that's a huge life change, right? To now have all of them in the same home on the ranch. And that's one part that changed. The second part is like Ariana can't fly yet. And so for the first 4 months, technically, you're not supposed to fly just from the germs. They can't really battle the germs. The baby can't battle the germs. So she came to Aspire tour, and we drove there. We drove 6 hours to go to Phoenix and got to be at her first Aspire tour event. We did a podcast with Jen Gottlieb, and she sat through the full hour on my lap and did a podcast. And so I'm creating business moments for her, and we're filming all this content with her to make her, because Baby Girl Boss is her Instagram. So we're making content for Baby Girl Boss just to have that. And later in life, if she decides she wants to be a soccer player and there's no entrepreneur, no problem. She wants to be a ballerina, cool. Like whatever she wants to end up doing. But I want to have fun with it along the way and hopefully bring more women and girls into the category of business and investing in that by making it fun with this, right? Me wearing pink all the time, me bringing her to events, bringing her on stage, etc. So that part of the change is there, as I'm incorporating her into my world. The hard part is right this moment, I'm here with you and I have flashes of her, right? Like I want to be at home with the baby, and I'm going Denver, Colorado, Hollywood, Florida, Miami, fly home for 1 second, like go home just to like see the baby, and then go right back out, go to New York, etc. So I would like to slow down, except the way I already have my world going, and this is the hard part for people to, might be hard for people to hear, but there isn't really much for me to do for the baby the first year. Because when there's breastfeeding, I can't bottle feed. I'm not allowed to bottle feed. So if she's breastfeeding, I really can't do anything outside of like moral support and being up all night. There's not much I can physically do in this stage of the child's life. And so at first I was like, okay, I'm going to slow down as much as I can and then do this, and this. And then when baby came out and everyone's like, there's 6 women in the house, like don't touch the baby. They're all passing the baby around. It was a wake-up call. Like, okay, well, I'm going to go bring her when I can. So all West Coast, she's coming with me. And I'm going to go do the things I have to do to plant a lot of seeds around the world for my businesses. So there was one part of me was torn of like, I do want to slow down. And the other part of me was like, I got to go full steam ahead.
I feel like this is a common parent conundrum, which is the desire we have to contribute in terms of work, and then the desire we have in terms of love and being with the people that matter most to us, and that tension that lives between us. I feel like, or between those two things, I feel like we just will be talking about that to the end of time, because you need both. It's not like one or the other is the right thing. It's this interwoven idea for both, like for individuals, in terms of what is your percentages. And I feel like that won't ever change.
It's going to be an interesting dynamic. As soon as she's allowed to fly with me, that's it. We're on roadshow. So,
well, that will be really fun. Will you take your entourage of 6 women?
No, just Erica and sometimes her mom to watch the baby.
Yeah, that's really nice. And so I know that you do a thing called Elevator Nights, which is a free event, and I think you do them quite regularly. When we think about that, was that something born from knowing Ariana was coming, or was that something that just happened?
Yeah, so that Elevator Night started almost 16 years ago. And yeah, so I've thrown it 54 times, and it's a completely free event for entrepreneurs to attend. And I do it in spurts. So sometimes it'll be 4, 5, 6 in a year. Sometimes it'll be 10 or 12 in a year. It just depends on what's going on. And I try to piggyback off of different timing and events in my travel. But Elevator Nights will always be free. And it's my way to bring 300 to 1,000 guests to a room to meet each other and network for a night of learning about investing in business and things like that.
Gotcha. But you have just started doing ladies' nights ones. So just for women. Is that an Ariana gift to the world?
No. So I have been doing those throughout the time. I just started making them much more regular now. So it's so important to me to bring more women into the business world and connecting them with each other, because women are so amazing at running businesses and being in operations and like being investors, etc. Sometimes it's just scary to go to an event full of men, or go to, where they can't focus on the event or the information when a lot of the guys are hitting on them or distracting them. And so I want to create environments where, one, they can have an all women's event. There's still guys there too, but an all women's event as far as the speakers go. And then also with my masterminds, even my military training at the ranch, that's 40% women that attend the military training. I just want more women active into the business world and events world. And so I'm trying to create these safe spaces that I'm not softening them. Like they're still real serious, military training, business talk, etc. But I want to create a space for them to be immersed into my world so they can go out and become the butterflies that they are.
So when we think about your journey so far, I know that you have one of your companies is a social media business. I'm switching turns to that because I'm really interested about that idea and where that's come from and what's happened with that and where is that going?
Yep. That started in 2010, so 14 years ago. It's called Elevator Studio. So Elevator Nights is the events. Elevator Studio is the social media agency. And Elevator Studio spends, $60 million with influencers for brands, products, and mobile apps. We do campaigns for supplement companies, fashion brands, female fashion brands, hair vitamins, tea products, beverages, Disney, Oracle, DraftKings, Postmates, Lyft. So we do campaigns with influencers to post about these brands, products, and services. The life has changed over the years, right? When I was first driving around, dropping off Sugar Bear hair in Fashion Nova to Kylie and Kim's house, it was to do a tweet for a random amount of money because we just kind of picked it, right? And it's still hard to pick, what to pay people now, pay celebrities and influencers now. But back then it was just like, okay, like to them, they didn't really mind because they're just doing a tweet and that's it, right? And then Instagram started doing like photos. That was it. You could only do still images. Then it was like, oh my God, you can do a 15-second video, right? And so we've just been changing over the course of time as they add new features on these platforms to do Instagram stories, Instagram live, all these different reels, all different features, all these platforms added different dynamics so that we could do campaigns and influencers could do different types of content based on the fact that now they could do a TikTok or an IG live or a Facebook post, or they could do it to, there's just a lot of ways to do content now compared to back then when it was just a little tweet.
I am really curious with all of the people that you've met along the way. We know that you've friends with, you're interacted with some very significant celebrities and leaders in the world of business and, human entertainment and things like that. What would you say is the most interesting experience you've ever had in that space? Something that people would head scratch and say, what? You did what with what?
So Fit Tea was the second biggest social media brand, right? Fashion Nova was number one. Fit Tea did like 55 million back then, like just selling, a detox tea brand. And I went to Kim Kardashian's house, and the owner, Michael, who owns Fit Tea, was like, we got to make a viral picture. We need something that's fire. And so we came up with this scene. I was in her kitchen, and she leaned over the kitchen to like reach over for the tea. And I was like, that's it. That's going to be the picture. You're leaning over for your drink of tea, and I'm going to take the image from the scene. That went so viral. And it was, I can't even explain. Every magazine picked it up, and TMZ and like everything. And it was just her leaning over the counter to reach for this Fit Tea. But the placement was so perfect of where the cup was, how the bag was sitting, how easy it was to read the words. And then obviously she's in that pose, so it caused like the drama or the interesting factor of the way she was standing or the way she was leaning over. And in her kitchen, so it felt behind the scenes, right? It's actually in her place. It's not in a studio. And that changed everything. Like he got into GNC, Walgreens, Walmart, Vitamin Shop, etc. Like bam, bam, bam. because he now added that photo to the deck. It could show a zillion likes and comments and all these magazines, publications talking about this one picture that happened just because I saw it was a moment in time, right? She was literally leaning over to pick up the tea bag, so like the cup. And so that one was stuck in my head. And that happened once also with Kylie. She created a photo that was just a bunch of boxes behind her of, I forgot, Hermes, like the orange brand, orange color logo. So the Hermes brand, she put all these boxes behind her, but she's wearing a female fashion brand. And the fashion brand was like, no, let's not do that. Let's do it over here. I'm like, this elevates you, right? This is going to elevate in the perception and your association with this luxury brand, your brand, and Kylie. And I remember I was standing in the snow for 40 minutes discussing this, explaining like why this picture is so good. And lo and behold, it was the #1 most liked photo of history at the time. And it was just because there's all this discussion about she's wearing, like a $24 dress in front of one of the most high-end brands in the world, branding behind her. And there's just so much chaos. It wasn't a sexy dress. It was just a pretty dress and very affordable. But the attachment to the luxury brand with a very affordable brand caused a lot of chaos and a lot of discussions. And because of that, people were sharing it, forwarding it, discussing it, arguing about it. And that became the most liked photo in history at the time.
So what I can see after talking with you for as long as I have is that you have an eye for the things that other people don't see. It's like you can see a pathway through. And in my words, which is maybe not the way that you would see it, it's like things sort of shimmer for you. It's like you can see things that other people gloss over or aren't looking at or looking for. Do you feel like there is an element of your ability to see a pathway through tricky things or complex things?
Yeah, based on human psychology. I'm thinking about, what is someone looking for? What is someone like? What will someone argue about? Why do people do what they do? Why do people lean forward? Why do they look at something? Why do I want different colorways? Like, I'm just looking for, what is that aha moment, or what is that thing that will make people react, right? And because we've done 110,000 posts on social on the paid side, I've just seen what are the comments, like how the captions happen. What happens if you write a short caption versus a long caption? What if you make the photo off-centered? Will people react more to it? What if you misspell some words in the caption? Will they argue about the fact that you misspelled words? Like, everything's based on human psychology. And so I believe that's what I'm seeing is, oh, they would like it if Kim was leaning over the counter. Oh, they would like Kylie to stand there in front of these fancy boxes behind her. Like, oh, they would like it if they did that. Like, I'm just looking at, what would the consumer, as they're scrolling through and they got lots of things to look at, what would be a pattern interrupt? What would stop them in their tracks? Like, whoa, that's cool, or that sucks, or that's crazy, or that's funny, that's hot, that's disgusting, like, what is it that will cause them to react? And I've just seen so many posts, so I have so much data in my brain of like, I know what would happen if you're leaning forward like this right now, but you did a different picture where your hands are up like this. How would that change? Well, you'd have 400 likes on this one, but you might have 1,100 likes on this one because it's causing a pattern interrupt, right? Or you do this here, but your caption changed and you say, what am I thinking about? And now this becomes 5,000 likes, 600 comments, because everyone's telling you what they think that you're thinking, right? So I'm just looking at the human psychology of, when someone's scrolling through the internet, or when someone's walking down a grocery store aisle, what will make them look? What will make them stop in their tracks and buy my product up the shelf, or like or comment on that photo that they're scrolling by?
What type of data is your favorite data to go through?
Well, people lie and numbers don't. So when someone says this brand is great, or someone says this is the best selling this, or someone says XYZ about a product, that's beautiful. That's nice. I hope they probably believe it, but the numbers don't lie. And so to me, when I see this was the engagement on this, or this was the sales on this, or this was the amount of traffic on the website here, this was the amount of views. What I love to see is when people forward a video or photo. Oh my God. If someone takes the time to forward a photo or video to their friend, you have hit it. Okay. And so if you all of a sudden you see that you normally get like 0 to 5 forwards, and someone that, the little arrow that's got that forward symbol, but now you've got like 200 forwards, that's the ticket. Now that's the post, right? And so I look for interesting things like that. And then once I find it, how do I replicate it, right? Recently, the real Tarzan, he posted a video with this oversized pig that we have at the ranch called the Boss Hog. And Tarzan's walking with this oversized pig. He got 65 million views in the video, which was insane, right? But what him and I kept talking about was 700,000 people forwarded the video. 800,000 people forwarded the video. 900,000, oh my God, 1 million people forwarded the video to their friends because of one of the scenes in the video was wild. And so we're like, all we kept talking about for the next few days was like, okay, let's make the same video with different, like walk this way with the pig, have a watermelon there for him to eat, we now know the magic, right? And so I look for things that are human behavior when it comes to data, and you cannot beat anything better than forwarding a video, reposting, resharing. Those are things that cannot be faked, cannot be bought, cannot be forced. It's because people want to comment, like, forward, or share.
So I wonder if we're finding another type of wisdom in here, Dan, because the relentless wisdom, it's excellent. I think alongside it is, excuse me, I think alongside it is the pattern recognition and the love of the data and the way in which that it weaves through all of your businesses, and it weaves through all of the way in which you structure your businesses and all of the way in which you chase an outcome and then measure an outcome. I can feel this very nice container, I guess, of safety that comes from being a lover of the data. Do you reckon that's accurate?
Oh, absolutely.
So not everybody's great at the data. What do you do if you're a person who maybe has trouble reading a spreadsheet, doesn't enjoy reading a spreadsheet, doesn't know what to look for, not even just in spreadsheets, but in the type of data we've talked about today? You're obviously not just comfortable. I don't think you're even at the mastery level. I think you're at like the PhD of wizarding level, Dan. So how do we thread some wisdom to people who have a lower level of mastery?
2 things. 1, increase your lower level to at least amateur. Just read about it, watch videos about it, study something, podcast, like just start learning about what, even as a thing as boring as spreadsheets. There is YouTube videos, podcasts, books that will talk about it. You want to understand it, but then it leads to number 2. Work with someone, hire someone, partner with someone that does like it. That's it. If you're an introvert and you want to go network, well, you're not going to network. So get someone who's an extrovert and take them with you to the party or to the events or to the convention, because introverts are really good at speaking when spoken to. They're just not going to be the one to break the ice. So take someone that's a good icebreaker and bring them to the convention, party, networking event, etc. You're not good at, or you don't like reading the data? Okay, well, you at least need to understand it. So study something, right? At least get like something in your brain to understand it so you can know what someone's talking about. However, I'm not asking you to become expert level, because I can't change change the stripes on a cheetah, whatever. Like, I can't change you for who you are, just like I can't change an introvert to become an extrovert. So understand that that's what you are, and then get someone else who does like it. And they exist at scale. Every time at Aspire Tour, for example, Andrew, the founder, says, who here in the room is a creative visionary, gets lots of different ideas? And then they raise their hands. Then he says, okay, who likes spreadsheets and math and contracts and operations? Raise your hand. Half the room raises their hand. So don't feel like, oh, no one's going to want to read my spreadsheets. They do. They do. They like it. They're There's a ton of operators that are out there. And so I would say to learn some of it so you have at least have a grasp of knowledge about it, but try to find someone else that is going to fulfill the thing that you don't like.
Would you say that you have a good grasp on all your metrics across most of or all of your businesses and life? Do you feel like you know what they are regularly?
I can tell you I have 209 animals because I have a spreadsheet. I can tell you I did $36.4 million at Cards and Coffee. I know exactly. I have 96 locations of Everbowl, and I open one every 6 days. I have math burned into my mind to the penny. And that's because I need that information to make better decisions. I need that information to be able to pitch investors, clients, partnerships, and vendors, people to come work for me. I know to the penny what our sales were from my sales team last month, like to the actual penny. It's burned in my mind because how am I going to go recruit other people to do sales for me if I don't even know what my sales numbers are? And so every data point that's within my company. Now, do I know what the tax implication is or the bill is or the net profit is or the EBITDA on these things? No. I know the general EBITDA for every one of the companies, but I don't need to be that granular because I don't talk about that to anybody else, right? If I tell you I did 500K in sales last month, I'm not going to tell you about the EBITDA and those things. That's not public information, and it's not something you discuss. But the gross sales part of it would be exciting for someone to want to work for me and do sales, right? If I said we went from 500K to 700K, whoa, that's a good opportunity to come work for me. If I say there's 96 Everbowls, we've sold 431, we're opening one every 6 days, well, that's exciting for investors to want to invest, right? And so I have that math burned in my mind because I need to use the data that's public facing that I can talk about, where I can say Everbowl's done over $50 million in sales, but I don't talk about the EBITDA. That's up to the company, right? But the things that are public information or easily accessible information, I'm talking about it to attract more investors, more franchisees, more partnerships, more salespeople, more XY vendors, clients, whatever, because of the data.
Would you know your own personal data at that same level? So would you know what your bank account is? Would you know what your portfolio is? I heard the animals before. Do you use this everywhere in your life?
Yeah. So I know what my bank account is right this second. I know what my stock market thing is, even though I don't trade stocks, even though I don't trade crypto, even though I'm not actively moving, I still check, not necessarily every single day, but I still check. My bank, I check every day to make sure there's nothing weird. My Amex, I can tell you what my bill is every day because I'm constantly battling with my Amex since I spend so much money across so many different companies and everyone uses my Amex. All my staff use my Amex.
That's the same for us, actually. We have the same Amex problem, but let's not do that right now.
Yeah, that'd be a whole therapy session. And so, but I know what it is right this second. Like I know what the bill is to the moment, right? Because I log in multiple times a day to always be making sure, okay, the ranch is taken care of. The events company is using the card. All right, sports cards, they just bought a bunch of cards. Okay, like I know the action that's happening there. But it's important. It's important to know your numbers because it allows you to then make moves and do decisions and things like that.
How does your literacy in numbers, data, money, how is that going to be connected with Ariana? What's your vision?
So I want her to like numbers, right? But I can't force it, right? I can only put her in the environments, talk to her about it, show her. I'm probably going to start a company for her, right? When she's a toddler, and we'll do 100% to charity. So we'll do either like a candle company or maybe it's baby clothes or baby, something baby related or toddler related, just to showcase, okay, we did X amount of sales. Here's the revenue. Here's the financials. She's not going to understand it when she's 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. But as she gets into teenagers, she will. And that can be interesting if I help her start this business and she has it going on, even though it's all for charity, it's a fun thing to do. So I want to embed it into her. But like I said, we get to 5th grade and she's like, I want to be a ballerina. Cool. I'm still going to talk about business stuff, but it's up to her to want to enjoy whatever she's going to be doing. And then the next year she changes her mind to be an astronaut. All right, we're going to go find Elon Musk and make you an astronaut then, right? Like I'm going to figure it out, whatever she ends up deciding to want to do. But along the way, I am going to be providing her access to a lot of information and showcasing to her. So she knows there's 209 animals and she knows what it costs to feed them. She knows, all right, this is what we need to do. There's how many staff there are. Like, I want her to know this stuff because it's fun.
It's super fun. And it's also one of those life skills, as we've figured out with talking with you. It's one of those wisdoms that translates into so many different facets of life, that foundational skill of understanding wealth. Do you have a strategy around generational wealth when it comes to sharing with her and other family members that might come from her when you're a grandpa one day, potentially?
Yeah. So I think about that all the time. That's actually my final question on every podcast episode that I do. It's the only question that's a repeat question, is asking them about, one day when you finally pass away and you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars one day, what percentage do you leave to your children? And so because I ask it all the time, sometimes people ask me, and I'm analyzing, hundreds of times I've heard the answers, and they're never the same answer. So in my mind, I'm going to create a 40-40-20 structure. Same way I pitch and tell people that they should do 40-40-20 when it comes to investing, which is low risk, medium risk, and high risk. I would do 40% for her and immediate family. Sorry, for her and immediate, like my children. 40% for immediate family and friends and any like high level staff that helped me get to where I am, even if it was 40 years ago, that will be in my will. And then 20% is the charity element that I'm picking the charity. And within the structure, it allows me to cover different bases. I would not want to leave her hundreds of millions of dollars, but I don't want to be scared to leave it to her if I made her a good steward of capital. Meaning, if she became and wanted to care and cared about business or a charity or saving the world or starting a business, whatever, I don't mind her having hundreds of millions of dollars, but not to spend on herself. And because then I would ruin her from that perspective if she didn't have that part of it. So all those things that are dependent on, I had her a bit later in life. So time-wise, when I'm going to pass away, which we don't know the math, whether it's tomorrow or in 100 years, she will be older than most kids, hopefully, when I do pass. And so along the way, I'll also be giving her capital to work with, because I want her to, again, not to go buy a Ferrari. I want her to go to start a company or start a project or start a retail chain or whatever she ends up wanting to do. So the point of this is I'm not opposed to the concept of giving capital to a child when you pass away. What I've heard the resounding number of people say is they don't want to take away from their upbringing. And if you hand a kid, a 21-year-old, $60 million, it's over, right? It's so rare that they're not going to be, lose all reality of life. And so I just listened and been thinking about over and over about how do you release the capital, and whether it's based on things that they have to do with milestones, whether it's time and age, whether there's multiple kids that they have, grandkids, like how do you unlock the funds in that respect so that you don't just say, okay, here, 25-year-old, here's $60 million.
Some really strong kind of principles and values that you're using to make the decisions. What would you say your guiding principles and values are when it comes to that stewardship for both Ariana and your future children and Erica, and perhaps your businesses as well?
It's just is knowledge. Like I need them to, if they are fully aware of what to do with capital, how to execute it, then I'm perfectly fine with them having it to deploy it. What I can't do is give to someone who doesn't know what to do with it, because it's going to ruin them and the people around them. Like if I hand someone, just doesn't matter if it's Erica, Ariana, or future baby, or grandbabies, you hand anybody millions of dollars and they don't know what to do with it, they're going to waste it. And we've watched it happen how many times to football players and rappers and trust fund babies, and it just happens all the time because they get millions of dollars. If they don't have the knowledge of what to do or the people around them to help or the connections, they're going to waste it. And I don't want to say you can't blame them for it, because it is their decisions on how they did it. They could have went and spent money to get the knowledge, but for the most part, they don't. And we've heard so many terrible stories of people going broke. So it's my job to provide the access information, good people around them. And ultimately, if I have to, I'll just put a CEO, a lawyer, an accountant to surround them and let them be the steward of capital, right? They can make decisions, but the CEO, the lawyer, and the accountant have to be the four horsemen to surround them.
What do you think is the most important piece of wisdom. So if we pop you and I and a third chair on a porch at night, it's like, let's put us in Nashville. It's like we're on one of those nice porches, white chair, rocks. It's like a good chair. Ariana's safely asleep inside with Erica. We've got a minute. We've also got one of our viewers or our listeners watching with us in the conversation. And you think this is the last time that I'm going to have to be able to share this one piece of wisdom that I wish everybody knew, so that they didn't have to do the really hard yards to have access to what I have done the hard yards to access. What is the one last thing that you wish that this viewer, this listener knew as we sit with the fireflies and the perfect temperature with our perfect drink in our rocking chairs together?
Sign contracts with everyone, including your mom. And the concept is you're not going to sue your mom. It's that you need either a memorandum of understanding, which is an MOU, or an SOW, a scope of work. And by doing that, it removes a lot of the problems that I've seen people go through, myself have gone through, but a lot of friends, family, associates, etc. have gone through. Is if you allow your mom, I'm gonna give you a real life example. Let's say it's Sunday night. I'm about to go to bed and I'm 12 years old. And I say, hey mom, I'm gonna clean my room this week. Will you pay me on Friday if I clean my room? And she's like, yeah, that's great. You got it. Friday, 5 o'clock, I'll check on your room. And the next day on Monday, I clean my room. Tuesday, I clean my room again. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I clean my room for 5 days in a row. And I come to her on Friday, 5 o'clock, and I'm like, hey, and I'm waiting for her to give me $25, $5 a day. And she gives me $5. And I'm mad at her, and she's confused why I'm mad, since I should be happy. I just got $5. And I should be cleaning my room for free in her mind, right? Like, it's my room. Who's right? Who's wrong? Like, in this example, I could have avoided all this if at that night, Sunday night, I said, will you give me $5 a day? And she goes, yeah, right. I'll give you $5 and I'll give you $5 total. By Friday, you should clean your room for free. We can have that debate Sunday night, because I otherwise just assume she's going to pay me $5 a day, and she assumes she's going to give me $5 for the whole week. And so having a scope of work or a memorandum of understanding removes all that. It removes the, oh, they know what I'm thinking, or I know what I'm, no, it removes all of that, because I just say it on a piece of paper or a text message or an email. I'm going to do it for $5 a day for the next 5 days. She goes, ha, ha, ha. No, you're not. It's $5 for the whole week. And then we can come to a decision. Compared to us building up resentment Friday at 5 o'clock and having a little battle because I'm frustrated. I just cleaned my room for 5 days in a row for no reason, when I could have done just one day and she would have given me the same amount of money. So sign contracts with everyone, including your mom.
I can't help but ask one more question, Dan. I'm really sorry. I'm enjoying this far too much. One of the things that when I met you for the first time in person, you talked about is along this route of confusion into clarity, which is one of the hallmarks of this podcast, is how do you turn confusion and pain into clarity and confidence? When you take that idea of a memorandum of understanding and you pair it with another idea that I heard you talk about when it comes to running your diary, which is really clear beginning and end times, can we just talk about the wisdom of clarity and how that is run from your life? How do you do that?
So by telling someone a beginning and end, hey, I'm going to do this meeting from 6 to 6:20. Hey, let's record this podcast from 6 p.m. to 6:40. I'm setting a precedent, because otherwise this podcast could be 2 or 3 hours, right? But if I say, hey, I got a meeting at 6:45, can we end this at 6:40? Now we know, your producers know we're going to do this for 40 minutes. And if I didn't say that, what am I going to do? I'm going to build a resentment because I have to miss my next meeting. I might miss the second, third, and fourth meeting because you want to talk for 2 or 3 hours. If you would have told me ahead of time it's 2 or 3 hours, oh yeah, no problem. I would have cleared my night and I would have done 2 or 3 hours, right? That's just communication. And so I'm very clear about, hey, I got my meeting here. I'm going to be there on time. Right now, a phone call just came in from a very well-known person I really want to meet with, and they're outside on the roof. But I told them they're early. So I have no emotions for the fact that they showed up early. I told them when to be here, right? communication is important so that when I go up there to visit them, they can't be mad at me. It literally says, this is the time to be here. The fact that they just call me ahead of time and I can see them texting me right now, right? This is in real life. I set a time. I gave a cushion so I knew that I wouldn't be late. And the fact that they came early, I have no emotion to that. I was communicative about when, where, why, how. And so I use this in every aspect of my life. If I say I'm going to be here for breakfast, I'm going to be here for a meeting, I'm going to go here to the store, I'm going to run and do this for, doesn't matter if it's Ariana, Erica, my mom, doesn't matter what it is, I tell them. Like I literally told my mom, hey, I'm leaving here at 9:20 and I'll be there at 11:20. Like I'm communicating with everyone, every step of the way that's involved in my schedule. And by doing that communication, it removes tension, confusion. There's no way that someone, if I tell them, hey, I'm leaving 9:20, I'll be there 11:20, can they show up at 1 p.m.? Like, oh, I didn't know when you're going to be here. The heck you didn't. It literally says I'll be there 11:20, right? And so I just do that in every aspect of my life. I just always communicate when, where, why, and how. And by doing that, I remove a lot of confusion, or fake confusion too, by the way. Sometimes girls are like, oh no, I thought dinner was at 9:00. No. I told you it's 8:30 and we got to leave here at 8:10 to be there. Like, and so I'm very clear about time in every aspect of my life, from the women in my life, the friends in my life, the business in my life, executives, clients, vendors, friends, doesn't matter. This is my time. This is what it's going to be.
It matches the data element of you, doesn't it? Because time is still a data point. So in order for your data to line up, the timing has to be a part of that. Dan, I have had the best time talking to you. I wish I had have known I could have booked you for 2 or 3 hours. I would have taken it.
On a weekend, you can.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Dan. I will let you go and visit your special guest on the roof. I think we all want to know who it is, but we're all too polite to ask you.
We'll probably see the photos coming up soon.
They can go back and have a look and see if they can figure it out.
Sounds good.
All right, Dan. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure. See you later. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We explored the incredible wisdoms that came from Dan Fleyshman, the youngest person ever to fund a publicly traded company. From selling hoodies at just 17 to being a best-selling author, Dan's entrepreneurial spirit has driven him to launch multiple businesses and brands. And now we see he channels his energy into social media, charity work, angel investing, being a dad, and doing the work of intergenerational transfer of wealth. My name is Meg Tuohey. If you have liked this episode, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and follow me at Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thanks again for listening. This has been Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on at Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.